Hey everyone and welcome. Today we are diving deep into the absolutely incredible and kind of hidden world of how babies communicate. We usually think a baby's story starts with their first word, right? But what if I told you they're actually building these complex narratives and telling us about their world from pretty much the moment they're born? It's fascinating stuff. Let's get into it.
And this, right here, is the central question we're exploring today. We're going to unpack how infants, way before they can even form the sounds from mama or dada, are already these surprisingly sophisticated storytellers. They're using this universal language of actions, interactions, and even logic.
So how do we unlock this mystery? Well, the key is something called the narrative intelligence hypothesis. Now that sounds academic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It suggests that our ability to think in stories isn't just something we learn, it's this deep evolutionary trait that we develop to navigate our supersocial world. So babies aren't just learning to talk, they're learning how to connect and make sense of everything through a story-like format.
So, how on earth do they do it? Well, it turns out infants come into the world with a really powerful set of tools already built in. Let's go ahead and open up this pre-verbal toolkit and see exactly what's inside. The whole process really boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful three-step learning loop. It all kicks off with them acting and then learning from it. Then they move on to practicing the raw materials of language, the sounds. And finally, they learn by copying the experts all around them. It's just this constant, repeating cycle of discovery. And it all begins with this amazing discovery of what's called agency. So in these classic experiments, researchers would tie a ribbon from a mobile to a 3-month-old's foot. And what happened? The babies really quickly figured out that when they kicked, the mobile moved. This wasn't just a fun game. This was a mind-blowing discovery for them. It's basically the first chapter in their own story. Hey, I can make things happen in this world. Okay, so next up is practicing the sounds. A baby's babbling isn't just random noise. Think about it. When an infant makes a sound that's kind of close to a word, like da-da, what do? We get all excited, right? We smile, we repeat it back to them. That social feedback is this super powerful guide that literally shapes their vocal skills and nudges them to make the specific sounds of whatever language they're hearing.
And this leads to something that is, honestly, just wild. It turns out that when babies copy us, it's not just mindless mimicry. Check this out. In one study, an adult turned on a light with their forehead. Now, if the adult's hands were free, the baby copied that weird head action. But, and this is the amazing part, if the adult's hands were busy holding something, the baby seemed to understand why they used their head and just used their own hands to turn on the light. That's rational imitation. They're copying the goal, not just the bizarre movements. Incredible, right?
So we know that infants have these incredible tools as individuals. But the real magic, the secret sauce, happens when they start using those tools in a social world. It really does take two to talk, and it's a dance that requires a partner.
And here's kind of how that dance plays out. It starts with something really simple, an infant just following an adult's gaze. This one little thing is the seed for a skill that is absolutely critical, shared attention. That's when you and the baby are both looking at and are aware that you're looking at the same thing. That shared focus becomes the stage where almost all other complex learning happens, from language all the way to social rules. This quote just nails it, really. Every little coo, every smile, every single game of peekaboo, it's not just a cute exchange. It's the fundamental heavy-lifting work of building a shared understanding of the world. You're literally constructing a shared mind.
So, where does all this lead? We've gone from these basic cognitive tools to social interaction. Now let's look at how these experiences actually create the architecture of the mind itself, building everything from their expectations all the way to their core beliefs. 12. What do you think this number represents? Give it a thought. It's not a dozen donuts or the number of months in a year. No, it's an age, in months, when something truly incredible happens inside a baby's mind.
Get this, at just 12 months old, before they have any words to describe what they're doing, infants can actually engage in pure reasoning. They can look at a totally new situation, pull together different pieces of information, and form a rational expectation about what should happen next. Their thinking is so much more sophisticated than we give them credit for. They're like these tiny, intuitive statisticians, constantly updating their beliefs based on new evidence. In fact, their reasoning is so logical that it actually lines up with complex computational models that scientists use. And here's maybe the most crucial takeaway. These early interactions have lifelong consequences.
That bond an infant forms with their main caregiver, it does more than just keep them safe and fed. It creates what's called an internal working model. It literally becomes the blueprint for how they see themselves, how they see other people, and how they approach relationships for the rest of their lives.
Okay, so we've gone deep on the theory, but why does understanding this secret language of babies actually matter in the real world? Let's connect all these ideas to practice. To really connect with a kid, you have to try and understand their state of mind. And as you can see here, caregivers find it especially important to get a handle on a toddler's ability to see other perspectives, and also their egocentricity, that phase where the entire universe literally revolves around them. Understanding these things is just key for empathy. And to help with this, some researchers are even using VR to let caregivers experience a toddler's perspective firsthand, which is dramatically improving their awareness.
And of course, this research has really critical clinical importance. Understanding how these pre-verbal story-building skills are built step by step can help us better identify and support children who might have developmental challenges, like those on the autism spectrum, where the construction of these shared narratives can sometimes be disrupted.
So from that very first kick that moves a mobo to the first shared glance at a toy, infants are writing the first totally wordless chapter of their lives. It's a story of discovery, of connection, and of the creation of a mind. We've just started to learn how to read that first chapter. The real question is, what incredible story are they going to tell us next? Thanks for joining me on this one.